Hello, everyone. Welcome to the HockeyBuzzcast. Today, Mike and Russ are going to speak to you for a second while I organize.
I'm hearing a narrative about, well, this all started when he played in the World Cup. And especially when I'm hearing this with youngsters, like Pasternak and Matthews. And no, it didn't start with the World Cup. The World Cup is when you noticed. That's what I want to point out to people. Like with David Pasternak, we watched, he had a really good year last year. Did he have 60 points and 30 goals? No. Did we see that he was going to be a pretty terrific player if you didn't know him before then? Yes. Did everybody pay attention? I guess not. And same thing with Austin Matthews and a lot of other players.
Yeah, remember, Austin Matthews was supposed to be the 13th forward on Team North America.
Right.
And by game 3, he was on the top line with Scheifele.
But we laughed about that at the very beginning. We did. We said that was never going to last.
We laughed a lot about that. Yes, we did.
And Heck, you saw it firsthand. I mean,
I was there, and I don't think anything that's going on now has anything to do with the World Cup of Hockey. I think it's absolutely absurd. It's just
it is
so far away. I mean, I've had people talk about Gossespierre in this thing too. It's just Gossespierre was amazing in the World Cup of Hockey, and why is he sucked? For the Flyers, people are saying these things. He doesn't suck for the Flyers, but this is what people.
I don't think he was amazing in the World Cup of Hockey. I mean, he had
moments. No, he had amazing moments.
Yeah, but
he was on their top. He was their top power play defenseman. He was good. I mean, he was out there for sure. But the problem is,
were they hitting hard in the World Cup of Hockey? No,
there was hardly any hitting in the World Cup of Hockey.
Were they game planning against guys in the World Cup of Hockey? No, that's what's hurting this guy. I mean,
right, and every there's a lot of the same kind of players in the World Cup. You have a lot of different kinds of players in the NHL. It's a very.
It's the same thing when we talk about the Olympics. A player that thrives in the Olympics can thrive in the Olympics because it's completely different from NHL play. You're right.
No, it always has been, it's just like some people thrive in the AHL too, which is not, and it's just a different kind of game. College hockey is the same way. Juniors, everything, world.
Later, when we talk about these college hockey players, I'm actually going to talk about that. That's actually a really important topic in there. Is the transition when you transition from college hockey to the pros. What actually helps you transition? Is it being a great scorer? So we'll talk about that.
That's a good thing. It's a good thing to talk about. I like that idea. All right. So
are you taking our picture, Ek? Are you doing something on Snapchat to us?
No. I'm just making sure Princeton's still winning. Just kidding. No.
I saw you had a bracket. I actually was surprised at that.
So yeah, I don't like basketball at all. It's one of those sports I think that is just meaningless to me. Baseball's close second, but I know you guys love baseball, so I'm just saying.
I used to love basketball. My love for basketball is gone.
I love basketball too. In fact, since I was this height when I was in 4th grade, I was scouted by my high school to be like, you're gonna be a superstar. By the time I got there, they're like, whatever.
I was a pretty good player. I went to camp. I got coached I got coached by Jim Valvano, a very name, but
I can't drop that name, but that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I like it.
It was only a one-day coaching thing. It wasn't like he was my coach.
Yeah. I think I was coached by Bob, my next-door neighbor's uncle. Yes.
And did Jimmy V tell you to never forget?
No, you know what he said? This is actually something it's funny. This is before all that. He was with Iona at the time, and he did instill something in me that, it's funny. You don't realize when you go to something how impressionable you are when somebody is so on the level and really could hit the mark talking to kids. And when he said one thing, his big thing was to be a rat. Now, this is probably 1979 or 80, and I'm able to remember this just on a whim, which I shouldn't be, right? It's weird. But he talked about being a rat, and to him, being a rat was being a gym rat. And what being a gym rat was just what you think it is. Always being around, always sharpening your skills, playing hard, being present, practicing. Practice makes perfect. Those kinds of things. And that was a great thing to instill to a bunch of camp kids, even if 99% of us never became basketball players.
No, you're 100% right. No. So so what I do to pick my brackets, just to finish up that, is this. I actually go through and I pick all the favorites. This is what I've done several years now in a row. I pick all the favorites except for the teams with good hockey college schools. So big college hockey schools. I picked them to win. Okay, so I just go straight up. They beat anybody. So like, it's tough because there aren't that many great college hockey teams. But of course, I have Notre Dame, and
did you pick Canisius?
Notre Dame I have Notre Dame and Minnesota in the final. Because they're the two best hockey schools in the NCAA tournament this year, at least. So let's go through that. So you get Michigan, Vermont goes pretty far for me. Like things that shouldn't happen this year. So, but that's just it's amazing. I've actually won with this system before. It's just it's hard to do, but it's just if you're going to pick upsets, why not pick them just based on something random? So I pick.
No, I think that's as good a chance as anything.
It is.
There's going to be. See, if you take your mind out of it and your heart out of it, there's going to be at least 3 or 4 big upsets.
Yeah.
So what you did was actually the right way to do it.
Used to say, Michigan State can't be one of them, or some team that has a half decent hockey team, or Princeton, Notre Dame in the games going on now. Two pretty good hockey teams. There aren't that many of them going on in the NCAA tournament where you have 2 hockey teams playing each other.
And that game is going on in Buffalo, by the way.
Right now.
But Princeton's always had a basketball following. I mean, Bill Bradley played for the Knicks. He won a championship twice with the Knicks. So Princeton's always had a name in basketball. But it's funny how programs, even as well endowed as Princeton, because you have to have the combination of being a great player and keeping up a GPA, it's hard for them to get good players now.
No, it is. And there's no shortage of of snootiness going on in the Notre Dame Princeton game. I mean, just watching 2 colleges that
I can imagine.
I mean that with full respect, because having friends that went to both colleges. But they'll admit it themselves. These are 2 of the hoity-toity, she frou-frou type colleges.
I will say the only difference. I'm going to say this, and I've not gone to Princeton. I do cover games there, so maybe there's a little bias. But I'm not a Princeton alumni. Nothing is painted in gold in Princeton. I'll say that.
Yeah, no. The streets of Buffalo are strewn with the crusts of bread cut off from the Princeton and Notre Dame alumnus.
Yes, it's not it's a highly-tighty group. It's interesting that watching that when I saw that matchup, I'm like, oh man, it kind of sucks because they're 2 teams that are you want to see. I always look to see who the Ivy League team plays because it's always fun,
Well, my heart couldn't be broken this year, Russ, because Syracuse didn't even make the tournament. So.
Yeah, I know.
Syracuse has had some great teams. I'll give you one quick Syracuse story. Ronnie Cycli was a big-time center for them. He was Greek, and he was checking into my hotel. I was a manager at a hotel in Manhattan, and he had just gotten through his college career, and he was getting ready to become a pro. And he had a guy with him, like a handler. And so the handler's checking in. He goes, "This is Ronnie Cycli," and I'm okay. I'm like, "Here, you need to sign this." And the handler was going to sign the check-in form. I'm like, no. This is like a law. That's why I said to the guy, I said, "You cannot do this for him. He has to sign in, and he has to show me ID. This is like a state law. This isn't, and the Ronnie Cycli just shrugs at him, and he looks at me, he goes, "He doesn't have any ID." And I said, "Really? He doesn't have college ID?" I mean, I pushed it. I did. And then out of disgust,
to trust a guy who's just saying this is who he is. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, and out of disgust, I let him put an X and took the thing and gave him the key. I was just so disgusted with him.
Oh man, that's funny. That is, that I'm sure that's crazy. I have a handler, by the way, as well. But I can understand where he's coming from. But I think that this is still
how did he get through college if he can't communicate with me?
That's why we start at 105 or 110 every day, because we have the handler to get.
And yes, I know I spelled Villanova wrong. It was a joke because I can't stand Villanova.
It's a college in Philadelphia, for crying out loud.
I'm sorry. I grew up a University of Delaware football fan. I have my Delaware hat back there. Villanova was an arch enemy. I hate them. So it's a joke in my family to spell Villanova wrong, and it's funny because I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I know people are gonna correct me because, of course, it is the internet. So but I also put it on Facebook, and my friends on Facebook totally got it because it's been something I've been doing for years. I refuse to spell it right.
Well, it's fine. We're all allowed to have our little petty jealousies.
But it's not that I can't spell Villanova. I mean,
you seem like an educated guy, Ak. I take your word for it.
I appreciate it. That's so funny though. I love. If nothing else, it brings me lots of traffic. I was telling Cap Neo, I'm like, I'll spell Villanova wrong. That way we'll get lots of traffic because people sit there and correct me. It's fine. Whatever.
When Joe Flacco corrects you, then you say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore.
Right. No, I was in the Rich Gannon era, so yeah,
But Rich Gannon was good. I got to tell you, Rich Gannon was a very good NFL quarterback. He was
in college too, man. He was in college. So anyway, all right, let's move on to the show.
Can we talk hockey, please?
Sure, why not?
Hey, look, this is like the only football Eck ever knows. I mean, Rich Gannon. That was like.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. This is it ends after it actually ends before Flacco, I think, or although Tony Sacca, I knew him too, but he was
okay.
Together. Actually, Cap Neo knew him really well. Hello, hockey world. It's Wednesday or Thursday.
It's one of them.
It's Villanova. Thursday, March 16th, 2017.
I'm I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
Yes, that's right. The getting from Billy Lano. And I'm actually watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. Billy Lano didn't like Villanova, as I remember. You're watching the Hockey Buzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. The podcast comes every Monday through Friday. Today we're going to talk about lots of things, including the playoff races, including some huge games tonight, including some college situations right now that are going on. Players signing. I'm getting, the text of the people who are, obviously, it must be really hard to be some of these insiders and track every one of these college free agents. I don't know how they're getting their, if there ever was a doubt that the NHL is sending information to some people once in a while. I'm just like, wow, how did you know that player? Anyways, it's really difficult. But anyway, we have had a couple. And let's start with you, Mike. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this so far? What's going on?
Well, I mean, we were looking at the 10 players that were nominated for the Hobie Baker, and if you just use that as a starting point.
First, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one of the 10 nominees, Zach Aston Reese, was the player who recently signed with the Pittsburgh Penguins. But there are a number of players on this list who are not affiliated, not signed with any team. And a couple that have been drafted by teams that I think mentioned late in the show yesterday that could go the way of Jimmy Vesey and test free agency in August. And
oh God,
yeah, no, there's at least three.
Yeah, and I think the guy that Russ mentioned yesterday, I think it could be the guy who will attract the most attention, not because I think he's a good player, but because of the position he plays, which is defense.
Yeah, Will Butcher.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, he's going to be the number one guy, but you have to wait till August 15th for him. He is a senior, so he's in this position.
Right.
I'll tell you, I've seen him play probably 4 or 5 times in different situations, and he can really run the power play. He is fast. He's got a great first pass. He's not the biggest guy. He's like 5'10". Right. That's why he's in, but he is stocky. Like, he is 200 pounds. He's a strong kid, so I think he can handle the rigors. He's like what you would consider like your second pairing guy, second power play guy. And that's what I think he could do.
Now, I believe he's a Wisconsin native. He's at the University of Denver. He was a Colorado Avalanche draft pick. And the thing is, we know that the Avalanche, their big weak spot is their blue line. So you would think that Joe Sakic would be going all out to get him signed before he becomes a free agent. Give him any bonus that he needs.
We'll see.
But if he doesn't, and I looking at it from my point of view, from the Leaf perspective, Butcher is University of Denver. The Leafs have Tyler Bozak, who was a University of Denver alum, and you may not think that means anything, but when they signed a free agent, Trevor Moore, during the summer, Tyler Bozak was part of the negotiating pitch to get Trevor Moore, who was a very good forward at University of Denver, to sign with the Leafs, and he eventually did. So now you've got two guys, and a guy that Butcher has played with. Yeah, more playing with the Toronto Marlies, and he may be an outside prospect for the next couple of years of being a Leaf, but that's an in with the Maple Leafs, plus the fact that Lou Lamoriello loves NCAA products. So they may not get him, but they will probably be interested in him.
I want to go back to Aston Reese because I have seen him play with Northeastern, and this kid, it's funny. What you have to look at when you look at transferable skills, a lot of ways that players score in college, they're not going to be able to score that way when they turn pro, right?
Right.
And this was the reason I liked Jimmy Vesey and kept pushing him so hard with you guys, because I felt like the way he played would translate in the pros. And it clearly has. Like, he's had a really good season. He hit the wall like every other college player does, and he's getting past that now. But he's still scoring the same way. Reese is a different situation. I value his defense more than his offense. Like, he really can be a shutdown guy. He blocks shots. He makes offense off of defense. Look, he skates really well. I don't know if he's an elite skater at the next level. I don't. He passes really well, but I don't know how much offense he'll create at the next level. Now, clearly, what we have to look at when we evaluate these guys, like if you remember Eric Hartzell, I was not on the Eric Hartzell bandwagon, and Pittsburgh got him. He was the big name. They landed the big name. He never even made it through the ladder. He just never did. And that could happen to Reese too. When GMs are signing these guys, sometimes they're signing them because they are the biggest name and they want to roll the dice. Sometimes they're signing them strictly for the AHL team and they want to see how they're going to do, and that's how it's going to be for Reese. So he's going to have to work his way out of Scranton before we ever even see him.
Right, and he's signing an ATO with Scranton for the rest of the season, and his contract kicks in next year. But of the 10 finalists, you've got 6, I believe it's 6 of the 10 who are free agents. 3 of them have been drafted: Anders Bjork by Boston, Butcher by Colorado, and Kerfoot, the center from Harvard, by the New Jersey Devils. Now, that was the other name. He's from BC. He's a Vancouver area kid. He was drafted by the Devils in 2012 by Lou Lamoriello and David Conti in New Jersey. He went all 4 years to Harvard. Again, it's questionable whether he's going to sign with the Devils or not. You know, they may want to sign him. They may not want to sign him. Who knows? The Vancouver connection is there, and I was just told by somebody online that his dad is the owner of the Vancouver Whitecaps. So if that's the case, and his family is well established in the Vancouver community, that might give the Canucks an inside track on signing him if they're interested. But if not, then you've got David Conti, who was the head scout with the Devils, who's part of the Vegas chain, and obviously Lamoriello with Toronto, who I think needs to bolster their organizational depth up the middle. So you see all these little connections, but we probably won't know until either the rights are traded to somebody else or after August 15th.
Right. And look, Kerfoot, what he's got going for him or doesn't have going for him is he's not the biggest guy. And so at around 5'10", he does have a pretty good build to him, and I think he can handle the physical nature of it. He used to play the top line with Vesey, but he's also shown now that he can play without Vesey, and that's an important thing. That's going to make a big difference to Spencer Fu when we talk about him. But I love his passing. I think he's got a plus wrist shot. He plays tenacious defense. He is an excellent penalty killer, and he's a guy, if you give him a little space, can get creative and fire off some great shots. I think someone like Lou and David Conti would have no hesitation in signing him with the Leafs if management wants to. So I'm sure his name will come up. And this is a good catch. Like, this is a guy who could play third or fourth line in the NHL possibly. Not right away, but in a few years.
But the point that you made, the thing that you referenced about these players, how they're going to be in the NHL. I mean, I consider Vesey a success story this year. I mean, he's not okay. I don't think many people thought he was going to score 35 goals coming out of Harvard. But
no, I mean, I know I didn't, and but I trust Russ. I mean, and I remember he had a very famous scout that I had debating you guys on this in the beginning. He was obviously wrong. But I mean, these things. Here's
the thing too, and I don't want to devalue the scout, right? Because I'm not a scout. This guy goes and sees players all the time. Scouts are right and wrong. I'm right and wrong. So it's not like, hey, I'm right and this guy's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I don't look at it that way.
That's what happened. But yeah, you don't have to look at it that way.
But
I can, and I can. I mean, and the bottom line is, that I do think connections matter a lot with college players. I really think that we saw it with Vesey. I mean, that there's a big connection there to what was it? The guy from
Kevin Hayes.
Right, Kevin Hayes. I mean, that was a major play. Now, and I do believe too with Aston Reese, that the Penguins the Penguins are slowly making an argument for college hockey, and no one really is thinking about it. Like it's like one of these things that we talk about all the teams in the NHL. We're always college hockey versus junior hockey.
Yes.
Well, this Penguins team is like loaded with college hockey players, and other players who have signed like Aston Reese. Like Connor Sheary, wasn't he? I think he was an undrafted free agent that signed with the Penguins.
I think he was undrafted. Yeah.
In college, yeah, he was a college free agent. Wasn't Kunitz as well at one point? Now he obviously signed with them, but he was
with Anaheim. Yeah, he was when he was
he was also a college UFA though. I was told.
I think you're right, but signed by I think it was by.
This is why Pittsburgh is doing this.
Right? Justin Schultz with Edmonton. I mean, all these players.
Pittsburgh has to do it the same way the Rangers do. If you trade draft picks and continue to feed the beast and continue to be successful, you've got to fill your pipeline somehow.
And Chicago's doing the same thing. I mean, they've signed 2 or 3 college free agents so far. So, I mean, they've traded draft picks. They've traded young prospects. Like they move out Mark McNeil in the deal to get Oduya back from Dallas. So they have to fill that, and they're filling that with college free agents.
This is the unkind truth to this, and this is just the way it is. And you have to be a team that builds a reputation. Like Panarin didn't go to college, but he was a free agent, right? Well, why did he go to Chicago? It's obvious, and he's thriving in his career.
Right,
why did some of these guys go to Pittsburgh and New York? It's obvious because there's other winning big cog players there. Right. If you're a low on the totem pole team, you have a hard time attracting these guys.
Unless there's a connection like a Kerfoot with Vancouver. I mean, that's the one thing that Toronto can look forward to is you've got the attractions, the magnetism, so to speak, of Matthews and Marner and Nylander being there. You've got that young core.
To do that, there's no question. Players love to play with other talented players, and but I think with Pittsburgh, talking to people around, the team and stuff like that, they really did sell Zach Aston Reese big time on the fact that they have not just brought college players in, but given them a really fair shake. Yeah. I mean, the other guys are Ian Cole and Brian Rust, and I mean, I guess someone list the other day, Jake Getzel, Scott Wilson, Brian Dumoulin. These are all college players on the Penguins that have made an impact at some point. Now, these aren't, they're not Crosby or Malkin or Kessel, of course, is another one you can't forget about, right? So Phil Kessel's another college hockey player, right? So,
right, but I mean, drafted 5th overall. So I mean, but I see what you're saying. You're talking about cogs in the wheel, pieces of the puzzle that fit in and help them.
But that's not a coincidence because, and I've been, I remember doing an interview with the Flyers when they brought Matt Reed in, another one. Right? So and what they said that they liked about Matt Reed was the fact that college players, they had practice more than junior players. They play less games. And they come in able to play 3rd and 4th line roles better than a lot of juniors players can play.
Well,
and that college has that going for it. It has a much longer gestation period where these players get a lot more time with coaches, and they come in a lot more well developed. And if they get their degree, they come in a lot more mature. So
right, and they do come in as more finished products, and
there's a reason. There's the biggest reason. And the CHL only started doing it 2 years ago, was allowing players to have a trainer for 2 weeks in the summer. 2 weeks is still a pittance to, if you go to, let's say you go to BU or BC and you're playing college hockey and you're in the gym 4 or 5 times a week because you're only playing on weekends, and you have these training staffs, these world-class guys at your disposal for everything, for what you eat, for what you sleep, for all these things. That is an edge that they get, and that's why, for whatever reason, it's worked out this way. I think they've built more defensemen than they have any other position in hockey for them. Like college defensemen now, like everybody knows they could go and get some college defensemen and fill their roster with these guys. Yeah. The offensive players is still hit and miss.
Yeah, they're usually role players, and it's rare that you get like a Connor Sheary who actually, I don't think a lot of people would have guessed that Connor Sheary's skills would have translated in the NHL.
No, I wasn't. I was skeptical.
But then again, you're playing with Sidney Crosby. So it's like there's. Right. I mean, if you say, well, he's not gonna be able to create enough space for himself at the NHL level, well, give him Sidney Crosby, and he'll be able to create enough space for himself at the NHL level. like that does change things, right? So that's
It does.
and I think that's what's going on. So the Penguins have done a great job with it, and I'm just happy because I've always made the argument that I believe in college hockey in the NHL, and again, and I believe in juniors as well. I think they're two totally different experiences, and I think they're meant for both different kinds of players. And I've and I know you've done this a lot, Russ, but I've had younger players talk to me about this and ask, where they should go, and I've always said they're totally different experiences. And if you really think you're a top, if you're a first or second rounder, maybe Canadian juniors is the place to go. But if you really, if you're not convinced that you're going to be an NHL player, but you're a really damn good player, and college is the way to go.
I actually term it this way. Here's what I tell people: if you want an education, go play college. Teams will find you.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way of putting it. I really do, and I honestly think
because there are some players that don't want an education, and hey, go play the CHL. Yeah, that is your best bet.
And I do think that what I've said to people in the past has shifted more and more towards college being more of an option, even for first and second round draft picks, because there's no reason not to go there and get the education and get more practice, get less chances to get hurt in games. Less crazy travel, a lot less crazy travel. Like, the junior schedules can be insane, so I think that it's just, you're right. They will find you. It's no longer that these colleges aren't being scouted. It's no longer that you have to surprise somebody. I mean, we're talking about these unrestricted free agents that are available, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that they've been given time to develop in college. They've developed from when we were trying to draft them at 17 or 18 years old, right? I mean, and now that they're a little bit older, we know what they're about. Yeah, they would have been drafted if you knew they were going to be that good. So that's what happens with all these players, I would think, right?
Yep.
I mean, you're the expert on this, so.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's totally fair. I just like you said, I always, to me, I act like the Jewish mother and always say, hey, look, don't always think that this is going to work out for you. Have a backup plan. And education is a good backup plan in life.
Great backup. Believe me, I didn't go to school to be an NHL hockey blogger. There's a better backup plan. You should go for the most safe and secure thing you can.
Yes.
So that you'll be able to support yourself and your family when you're grown. So I mean, there's a lot of issues, but and some of these players.
No, but that's true. It's really true. So here's another guy, the Anders Borg, who is a Boston pick. He's in his third year now. This is the dangerous year because he showed himself in camp last year and was great. Still went back to college. Now, we don't know, hey, did he want to go back or did he go back because, he wasn't offered anything? We don't know. Now, this is the big time for Boston because if they don't sign him now and he's already a Hobie finalist this year, if he doesn't sign and goes back as a senior, the chances drop dramatically that he will re-sign with the Bruins at that point. Right. So this is make it or break it time, and he's really a good player. Like, he's played on some of the elite teams and with elite players, and he is, again, would be a terrific NHL role player. I love how he could lead the rush with speed. He's got great puck handling skills, and he's a great PK guy. And you'll see these are the kinds of traits that I think it's important when you're an offensive player to have to make it as an NHLer. The same thing as a Bonino. Bonino didn't make it the NHL because of his offense.
Right.
Last thing on this, it's weird because last year last July at the rookie scrimmages that the Leafs held in Niagara Falls, I got a chance to talk to some of the NCAA products that they had, namely Dominic Toninato, who's a senior at Minnesota Duluth, and Nolan Vesey, who is Jimmy Vesey's younger brother. And the Leafs, when I asked them, did the Leafs want to sign you to a pro contract? The general consensus of all their NCAA guys was no, they want us to go back to college. Now, the thing is, Toninato is a senior. He can go for free agency, but more than likely, because it sounded like the Leafs were interested in him as a long-term project. They could either sign him to an AHL contract or to a pro deal. VC, he's facing that. He's in that third, fourth year. He's not as prolific as his brother, but he has the physical tools to eventually be an NHL player. This is that year, that junior, senior year. Either he decides or and that he wants to go pro, or he stays in there for a senior year at Maine. And if he does that, then he becomes a free agent and he follows his brother's footsteps. So it's interesting how the teams are playing these little situations.
I got 3 more that I'll talk about like in 30 seconds or less so we can get onto the NHL stuff. But
no, this is great.
Like Mike Vecchione, he was in Flyers camp, right? And it seemed like I was the only one that interviewed him, but maybe some others did. I don't know. But we all watched him with Shane Gostisbehere. He was great in the Frozen Four. I don't think he really had an intention of signing with the Flyers at that time, because when I interviewed with him, he kept talking about going back to Union for his senior year. So I think he was going to do that regardless. That was his plan, and maybe because of education and because of rounding himself out. But he's really got good speed and stick and puck skills, plays the 200-foot game, very smart, very coachable, a true center. Now, every Flyers fan wants him now. And the Flyers may have an inside track because they had him in camp. They may not, but he's going to have a lot of offers. He may get the most offers now of anybody else on the table.
Well, this is Gostisbehere.
Yeah.
Like this, like I do think that, and Lord knows
it'll definitely help because they are friends.
Right. And the Flyers ingratiated themselves to Gostisbehere this year by scratching him 5 times. And that, there's no question that that'll help too. When you're trying to get somebody like this to come to your team. Just
come to Philadelphia so we can scratch you.
Just another one. Tyler Sheehy from Minnesota is an interesting one because when I first saw him, he was out of high school and played in the All-American Prospects game. He is really good. He's got a great shot. Like the best thing about him is his shot.
Is this Neil Sheehy's relation to Neil Sheehy?
I don't know. He's out of Burnsville High School, and then so I don't know. But
I thought Neil Sheehy was in Minnesota. That's why
he's a 5'10" guy, but that shot could get him to the pros because he could either shoot the wrister or the backhand. He does a lot of other things well. He skates well, but he's a shoot-first guy, so it's going to be a little harder for him to make it than some of the other guys with the full rounded-out game. But that shot could get him there, and he's an impressive one. The last one is the best story of all of them, and I have to admit, somebody brought him to my attention on Facebook who was a big fan, and this guy's Charles Williams. He's the 5th-year senior. He is the Chris Winkie of college hockey. Everybody remembers Chris Winkie was the 27-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, so I love that. Chris Winkie of college hockey. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he's a goalie. He's only 5'10", but he's strong. He's like around 200 pounds. He was in the USHL back in 2010, so he has gone through the system and then sort of gotten lost in the system. But I like his movements. His glove, he doesn't get rattled, and I think there's a chance, like a really outside chance, he would be an NHL backup, but I don't think he could be anything more than that. But he is a great story. Like, Canisius is a small school, as Mike knows. They've been getting better, though, the last couple of years, and he was just a gift for them, really was.
I want to hear more about that. I want to talk. Yeah, I want to do more research on this because that's like, just such. I love this kind of stuff. That's
He's 25 years old.
Yeah, there is a track to the NHL with Canisius. They've, Corey Conacher, former Tampa Bay Lightning, or now current Tampa Bay Lightning, Sabre, Ottawa Senator. He went to Canisius. So does his younger brother Shane, who's playing in the Marlies or in the Leafs organization in the ECHL, I think. So there is a track to the NHL with Canisius. It's a fairly small school that I lived like 3 blocks from. So
yeah, I think he said. Before he went to Canisius, where was he? Ferris State.
Ferris State.
Ferris is pretty good.
I can get him on the show. You need to walk over there and say, "Hey, what's going on?" Bring him on the show. It'd be fun. I mean, just.
And Ferris is pretty good, but it's interesting how Ferris didn't hold on to him. Like he's a good goalie,
And goalies take a long time to develop. So it's 25 years old for a goalie is nothing.
Not that big a deal.
No, I want to try now. I'm 49. I'm late. I'm late on the whole thing.
You are a little late, a little puffy, but
Hey, you didn't have to do that. You have to go there, man. I'll just be with my lovely head of hair and talk to you then.
You win that battle.
Yeah, you can stop him with your locks.
Let's talk.
Can we just touch quickly on this decision regarding the court decision that came down about Weidman?
Oh yes, we should do it briefly. Yes.
I mean, okay, because what ended up happening is the NHL.
I don't think everyone knows this really. So
the NHL sued because the arbitrator, the independent arbitrator, took down the 20-game suspension of Weidman to 10 games. They said he was overstepping his bounds. They actually ended up firing the guy, but they went to court to get them to reinstate the 20 games, and the court found in favor of the PA, so the 10-game suspension stands, and basically the league is going to move on. But I honestly think that this whole thing was done essentially to make the NHL look like they were backing the officials, just like they were doing with the whole thing with Antoine Vermette. The 10-game suspension, the same, although there was some talk about them reducing that suspension from 10 to, I think, 5 games, but the officials were not on board with that, so they didn't press the issue. I think this was all to keep peace between the officials and the league.
I look at it a little differently. I look at it as this was Donald Fear's wheelhouse. He was not going to lose this one. That's it.
That's probably pretty accurate. I think you're both right. I don't think there has to be a right or wrong on that. I think you're both
right.
Both right when you say that. What you're saying there makes sense to me. So let's move on to the games last night. I'm
watching one right now. Let's talk about the Boston-Calgary one for this simple fact.
First, I have to bring up an overall thing for a second.
Yes.
So the Buzztron 9000 is now officially the Montreal Canadiens of projecting games. We went 17-1 in the beginning of the year, and since then we're at 500 exactly. So just throwing that out there. We are the Canadiens. Hopefully we'll make the playoffs. We need a good goalie, but we're working our best. And last night I got one of these 4 games right, and I bet you in a million years, unless you read my blog, which I know neither of you do.
No, I was clued in. I know who.
The which one I got right last night is totally bizarre. I mean, of those 4 games, okay.
You picked the 62 Mets and you won.
I picked the Avalanche to beat the Red Wings last night, which happened. And the other 3 I got wrong. I had the Blues being the Ducks, I had the Flames being the Bruins, and of course I had the Penguins being the Flyers because I've lived through enough of those games in the last couple of years to know. Even if I didn't have a computer picking these games,
a 250 batting average
last night, I would have rigged it so they weren't going to win last night. I had no way in the world I thought the Flyers would shut out the Penguins last night. So.
A 250 batting average is pretty successful in the major leagues.
Hey, 214.
I'm at 590. I'm still pretty good for the whole season.
For yesterday, it was,
even if you're hitting 214 like Tebow, you get a lot of praise. So
Now let's go on the Flyers Penguins game. First off, Mason against all, or maybe it is exactly how it's supposed to go.
No, I think this is exactly how, if I were the goalie, I'd want it to play out because I didn't get my contract.
I didn't get my contract. Yeah, I didn't sign the short-term deal.
Right.
And instead, but the crazy thing is this: Mason is not. Well, let's say he's not exactly on everybody's guest list on that team. Like he's been very harsh towards his teammates in different situations. He is very much competitive. He's not Czech Monik Brizgalov quite, but he has his moments, right, where he's definitely.
But he wins.
Yeah, but he wins, and he's a competitive dude. So it's all right. We got that. That's how it works. So
remember, Tim Thomas wasn't well liked by everybody either.
Right. But I don't remember Thomas really. He wasn't more like for other reasons than maybe calling out his teammates. I don't remember Thomas doing that too often. But Mason does do that. And it's funny. Last night I saw this play, and I was just watching very carefully. And Mason made this good save, and Gossipier shielded off the forward, so he could freeze the puck. And it was just one of those moments where Gossipier was, normally would tap a goalie on the pad from he about to and then just turned away. I wish I don't know if anything meant by it, but it was just anyway. So Mason comes out last night, wins 4-0. The Flyers beat the Penguins 4-0, keeping the Flyers' playoff hopes slimly alive.
This is why I didn't count him out yesterday, Mike. Just so you know.
I know, but honestly, the way Mason has played, I mean, okay, I can't blame him for the Brandon Manning deflection with 5 seconds left to go in Boston. But everything that he's done after that game against Toronto makes the decision of Hackstall even more puzzling to start Neuwirth in the biggest game of all of them.
Everybody's talking about it still. We said it'll be talked about till the end of the year.
Yeah.
Because Neuwirth was so rusty and was so nervous. Not to say he cost them that game, but he didn't contribute to them, being very close.
Yeah, no, it was a mess. And so then the other games last night, the Flames, on their streak, and this is something I pointed out today in my blog. and then we can get in the Bruins Flames game here, Russ, is that the Flame and the Flyers both now have 10-game winning streaks in this season. And it was pointed out last night during the NBC broadcast, really interestingly, that no team with a 10-game winning streak in the NHL has never not made the playoffs. Now, the Flyers are probably not making the playoffs. I mean, it would be a miracle for them to pull it off. The Flames are in a playoff spot right now, and you would think that, but the Flames have a hellish schedule coming up. And I can't. So they are going to have to battle to make the playoffs. They are not going to make this. It's not going to be easy for them to make the playoffs. They're not a guarantee in winning like they've been winning lately. Sure, but
I watched that game last night, Ak, and you have to give a lot of the blame for that loss to the rustiness of Chad Johnson.
Absolutely, that Pasternak goal. Come on.
Yeah, he was not.
Quietly since Boudreau's gone are 11-3. And the people like the Bruins are also on a crazy. I mean, they've been not Boudreau. Sorry, Boudreau. Since Julian's gone. Sorry, Villanova. Since Julian's gone, they're 11-3, and and the Bruins are playing unbelievable hockey. I mean, every team changed their coaches this year is now in the playoffs or something like that. Some crazy statistic. So
there could have been a really big, because everything in the last 15 games since Cassidy took over has been going right for that team, but there could have been a very big hiccup in their plans last night because David Backes went into the boards heavy, hit a rut, was carried off on the ice by a couple of his teammates. Everybody thought he was out for the game, and who knew how long he would be out because it looked like a serious injury. He comes back in the second period, and after Khudobin lets in a goal from center ice, a la Alan Bester, Jonathan Bernier, and half of the Leaf goaltenders in the last 20 years, they come back, and Backes scores the goal that ends up being the eventual game winner. So, having Backes not be seriously injured, if they would have lost him, that affects them big time because he's been playing with Bergeron and Marchand. And my argument is that's been the best line in hockey the last couple weeks.
Yeah. No, that's a great argument.
That is a good argument. But I really do think Boston got a gift there, and I can't count this as like a law. It broke the streak, but we don't know what would have happened if Elliott was in there. That's basically the point.
Exactly.
So, it's what happens in the NHL, though. Like, guy gets sick, you got to put in somebody.
So the teams that Calgary has left, okay, on the surface, they're not, it's maybe not as crazy as it sounds. Okay, Dallas on Friday, that's that they should be able to beat Dallas. Although, if you go over the last 3 years, they've won like twice against Dallas, so they really have struggled against Dallas. But okay, at the end of the year, playoff time, Dallas having an off year. Then LA, they can never beat LA. Then Washington, who oddly enough they play well against, but they're in Washington for that game, so they, that's something. Then Nashville, who they play well against, that's a win. But then they got St. Louis, who they never can beat. It's really interesting. They just go back and forth, and then they end with teams that they really have like a combined like 2-12 record against. LA, San Jose, Anaheim, LA, San Jose. That's the end of the Calgary Flames season. Those are teams that they just have owned the Calgary Flames for the last 3 years. Now, whether how you want to slice it, it's going to be a tough road. There are, I think, 4 teams going for 5 spots in the West. I think that's what it is. I think it's St. Louis, Nashville.
Here's the dangerous thing though when we do this part of things. Like last night in that Colorado game, you've got young guys now getting a chance, right, to earn a job for next year, like J.P. Compher, who was in the Buffalo system, who really is a terrific player, but he got traded because it was in a big-time trade. He had a really good game. I've talked about Rantanen for a couple of weeks now. He's been really good. But again, they can't always control the outcome of a game because, there are only a couple players on the team. McKinnon's always good, right? But when you have young players like that are sparking the veterans like Duchesne and everything else, they could win a few games. And that is the danger if going in there and having to win against teams that have nothing to lose.
Totally agree. And that's a factor I tried really hard to write into my thing, is when teams are officially eliminated, what happens? Because, I don't know if it's a bigger mystery of teams who have made it sometimes who fall off, like Washington has fallen off a little bit because they have nothing to play for, kind of.
There's also been injuries there. Their defense has been and Shattenkirk was suspended for a couple games. So I think one of the things that has to be a factor with the teams that have clinched playoff spots and are battling for position is they want to be extra careful that they don't get hurt. So And I think it's subconscious, but I'm sure the coach doesn't say, "Okay, be careful out there, boys." No, but I think they think, "Okay, I've got to be there when the season means something," which is April the 11th or April the 12th when the playoffs start, and that takes the foot off the gas pedal subconsciously.
No, I completely agree, and you see that it's sometimes it's not even subconscious. I mean, I do know coaches will they'll just maybe play a guy less. Like you'll see less minutes. Never want to play like you're afraid to get hurt, because you do get hurt if you try that. I mean, that's been proven over years that players who are afraid to get hurt will get hurt.
But it doesn't stop them from doing it.
No, exactly. But the fact is, I really think that you're gonna see players playing less, and you try different guys on the power play, things like that, just to keep things fresh. But you also, there's the battle of if you're Washington, this whole season has been about the playoffs. It doesn't matter. Even when they were out of it, even when they were, a wild card team for a while there and not playing well, this season was never. No one ever thought the Capitals weren't going to make the playoffs, right? And
that was never in danger.
And it didn't matter where they finished.
Yeah, I think it matters where they finish. I think it actually matters that they get home ice advantage, because even though they had home ice advantage last year and lost to Pittsburgh because they were the President's Trophy winner, I do think that it matters more to them to be able to have, because if they play Pittsburgh, it's probably going 6 or 7, and if it's going 6 or 7, you want that deciding game in front of your home fans, not on the road.
Here's the thing. I agree with the premise, but like when most teams win a cup, like in '94, the Rangers avoided some of their worst teams to win that Stanley Cup. Mm-hmm. Washington is going to have to avoid Pittsburgh to win the Stanley Cup. To me, it's very well laid out. If they can't avoid Pittsburgh, they're not winning it. That's just the way I'm looking at it.
I think they have to avoid the Rangers more than Pittsburgh. And this is why. Last year, Pittsburgh was about as good as any team's been going into the playoffs. They were about as hot a team as you could imagine. Everything going right.
Yeah.
And the Capitals took them to the brink. I mean, the Capitals did lose to them, but that was really a good series, right? I mean,
sure.
The 7th game overtime series. I mean, if I remember right.
But but I think Pittsburgh has more depth this year.
Yeah, but they're not. But I think Washington's better than Pittsburgh, and I think
Washington is better. But so is Pittsburgh.
I think what Washington is praying for is a Pittsburgh Columbus first round, where Columbus beats the crap out of Pittsburgh, and win or lose, Columbus will beat the crap out of Pittsburgh. Dubinsky will lay the wood.
It'll be a battle.
Sidney Crosby. It'll be a Herculean battle between those two teams.
Yes,
you hope.
For sure.
That's what people hope.
You think?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be tough. I think it's starting to, when you look at the playoffs right now, and you look at the Western Conference, we are now basically 12, 13 games away from the season ending. And there's not a lot of space left, so you're looking at 24 points you can pick up at the most.
Have we looked at our predictions just to see where we stand?
We should do that. We should go back and see where we are.
I'll have to find that episode. All I know is I'm gonna erase the part of the episode that said Ottawa is gonna be the 30th place team in the league.
Yeah, no, I didn't think 30th, but I wasn't far behind you. I didn't think they were gonna make the playoffs either, and they've been the biggest surprise, the biggest.
I mean, everyone had Tampa in, so
yeah.
No, I still think Tampa's going to get in, but that's me. And a lot of people think I'm crazy for that, but I still think they are.
I honestly think that might be the greater fear for Washington. I mean, they know that, I think either one way or the other, unless they get very lucky, they're going to have to go through Pittsburgh to win the cup, to get through the East and get to the final. Yeah. But do you think that they want to avoid a first-round matchup against the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Yes.
I don't think a first-round matchup with the Tampa Bay Lightning is really.
Oh, I think.
No, that's not what they want.
I'm going to say I don't think it's really possible. Actually, I mean, I think it could be, but I know what you're saying.
Dave Vanderchuk just talked about Stamkos in the hyperbaric chamber, and actually, really more specific. I don't know if he mentioned the hyperbaric, but he mentioned the underwater running. Like, Stamkos is a beast when he is rehabbing to get back to hockey.
Like the $6 million man,
he really is. Like, he is like a cyborg. I mean, he doesn't get enough credit.
Underwater running.
That's what I'm saying.
Eating unicorns live. What is he else doing? I mean, come on. What else can we possibly do?
Well, you missed the episode the other day. There's underwater hockey now. If you want to go back and watch from 2 days ago.
Oh, wow, yeah.
There is underwater hockey.
Be a good goalie in that sport.
I think you're too buoyant. But anyhow, we'll move on from that.
Jesus.
Good night, everyone.
Remember, it's not me saying this.
For your information, I have lost 7 pounds.
Good for you. That's awesome.
I need to lose another 10.
Yeah, so do I. I'm in the same boat. But I don't pretend I can sink to the bottom of the pool and stay there.
I can.
I could challenge you to a foot race, Russ. What do you say?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take you on that challenge.
I bet you I could beat you. We'll see what
Okay.
happens. Do this in the parking lot someday. All right, so
Definite short distance. I'm going to go short distance.
Can we go 10? Can we go 10 meters?
No, actually, here's what it's going to be. This is the only thing I'll agree to. 60 feet, 6 inches.
You're gonna run for the pitcher's mound. You're gonna charge the pitcher's mound.
oh god, baseball. All right. We'll see about that. All right, so
Now St. Louis lost to St. Louis lost to Anaheim yesterday.
Yeah.
That moves Anaheim back into second place in the Pacific. They're battling with Calgary probably for home ice unless Calgary falls back. But St. Louis losing, that just calls into more focus what LA couldn't do in those 2 games. They couldn't beat St. Louis and they couldn't get 2 points against Arizona.
Matchups. It's just matchups.
yeah. No, there's going to be a battle for them. And the interesting thing is that finally, you have a chance here for, everybody kind of assumed, I thought that we would have, more of a runaway. I kind of felt like there would be more of a runaway of the Pacific or the Central Division. But now it seems like really it is just a battle between 5 different teams trying for 2 wildcard spots. And they're from, 3 from one division, 2 from the other. So, yeah, I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a great race down the stretch.
Yeah. I mean, Barbashev got his 3rd goal, so he's producing for them. That's a big thing for St. Louis.
Yeah.
Reichel got his 30th. And when I go back to my scouting reports, I was very high on him in the draft. I don't know if I ever thought he'd get 30. That's really great.
Well,
Yeah.
all I can say, Russ, is I know that trades cannot be looked at this way, but as Maple Leaf fans tend to do, going back to Tom Curvers for a 1st-round pick, which turned out to be Scott Niedermayer, the trade that they made in 2011, the Leafs trading up, I think it was 7 slots at the bottom of the 1st round. They traded their own 2nd-round pick and the first that they got from the Thomas Caberlet deal to move up to take Tyler Biggs, who has never played a game in the NHL. And the 2 players that Anaheim drafted with the picks were Ricard Raquel and John Gibson.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question you could look at that now and say that it doesn't look good.
Oh,
Could look at it that way, yeah, for sure. Holy cow. Doesn't look good at all.
That is pretty much game, set, match at this point.
That's a stopper there. All right, let's get into tonight's games because we got some really good ones tonight. And this is a lot of games tonight. A lot I haven't counted yet. I'm about to do my predictions for this as well, so I won't bore you with them as we go through this. But nor do I even want to make them right now because I'm afraid of losing more games. But it's a beta program. All right, so the Flyers Devils, this is the perfect opportunity for the Flyers to lose. I hate to say it, as a Flyers fan, you beat the Penguins 4-0 on national TV. You got all the momentum going. Then you have to go to New Jersey, the last place you want to go because the Flyers in New Jersey have all kinds of trouble. But
it is the last place because what's going to happen is New Jersey is going to muck it up.
Oh, yeah.
They will have Schneider in net. They'll probably score at least 1 ugly goal early because the Flyers usually sleepwalk through the 1st period.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of pressure on them.
I will say this. If the Flyers win tonight, if they come out and they play really hard tonight, and they do, because last night's the kind of game that, if you're going to make a run, to your point, Russ, that's the kind of game you start it with.
Right.
The Penguins 4-0 at home, that's a huge momentum swinging, season swinging game. But you have to follow it up tonight. So if you don't follow it up tonight, you're history.
Does that mean that Neuwirth plays?
Yeah, right. Probably. No, I think I don't know. What are they going to do? I think they're going to go with that.
I mean, I'm done predicting. I am so done.
I'm just going to ask. I'm going to call up somebody and just. I mean, I don't know.
Ask Alexa. No, but I mean, honestly, if I'm Hackstall, I play Mason till he drops.
Absolutely, I think they do. I think they play Mason. I think that. I mean, this is a lot like.
I'm not predicting.
I'm not predicting. I don't know.
Remember last year, Mason was a big part of this big run they had at the end of the year, and then Neuwirth was their goalie in the playoffs. So,
Here's the thing. All right, we got to go hypothetical here, but if Mason gets them on another big run, whether they make the playoffs or not, with the team that they have, which is clearly flawed, but that's fine. That's just the way it was. We knew it was. How do you not sign him to a contract?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, but I think that they just
Russ
desperately need a different dynamic between their goaltenders. I mean, I'm not saying that they get along fine. But I just think that the idea is that you have two goalies that you just can't, or for whatever reason, Hackstall just can't seem to put his finger on how to play these guys, like when to play them, how to play them.
Is the indication in Philadelphia that Neuwirth was signed because they want to keep him or because they want to offer him up as the?
We don't know. There's no indication. That's the funny thing.
No, with Hextall, we don't know if they just signed.
Here's my guess: because Neuwirth was signed first, he'll be offered up and not protected. They'll protect Stolarz, and then if he doesn't get taken, then that'll hurt the negotiations for Mason. If he does get taken, they'll negotiate with Mason after that period. Like, that's what will happen.
1 year deal.
After July 1st, yeah.
They'll do a 1 year deal with Mason or a 2 year deal with Mason tops. But I will say this. Hextall is so close-lipped, and the whole organization has been so close-lipped about this. I'm just going to guess, based on things I've seen, based on things that people I've talked to, that this is what could have gone down. This is total speculation, and I have no idea, so understand that. I mean, this is not a rumor at all.
We're going to run a disclaimer in the corner right here.
Yes. I believe that I could see Hextall having gone to Hackstall and said, I want to sign one of these guys to a 2 year deal. Who do you want me to sign to a 2 year deal? And they said, all right, we'll keep Neuwirth. I could see that scenario because I believe deep down Hackstall favors Neuwirth.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Slightly. Now, but at the same time, there's no denying that Mason can, get hot like he is right now.
Yep.
What's that?
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. Thank you very much. All right. So that's the Flyers. I do know my thing. Flyers win that game, so count the Devils in for that one. The Jets and Islanders are the next game. This is a huge game for the Islanders as well. They're right in the middle of this battle. Then you get the Predators and Caps, which is of course the Barry Trotz game to me. That always, whenever these teams play each other. So I mean that's a fun game to watch. Just the Predators are very much in the battle for their lives too here. They are far from in it. So
here's the thing. I don't want to dismay Barry Trotz because I love the guy. I think he's the best. I think it's so overrated when a coach is this far removed from the franchise he was with, no matter how many years, to keep drudging that up. It is. I
would believe that. It's so funny, Russ. I'm exactly with you on that. With almost any other coach in the league except for this one. Just because Barry, the way that Barry Trotz is, and just because of how much I know he loved that city and how much that city.
Conversely, when Peter Laviolette comes in Philly, he can't leave quick enough.
No, there's totally, you're right. I mean, you couldn't. Right. So, to me, I think that I really do believe that it means something to Trotz, and it's still to this day. And I think the players on that team, they love Trotz too. The players on the Predators loved. I mean, he was not.
Nashville needs this game, so
they need this game. So it's going to be. The pressure's going to be on the. And I'm going to say the Capitals kind of need this game too because they've got teams chasing them right now as well that are
I think it's irrelevant to them. I don't think they won it last. Any team that has ever won the President's Trophy and has been ousted quickly doesn't care to win that again.
I think the Caps right now are a little dozy, and basically they're like I said in the last couple of shows. This is one of the teams that cannot wait for the playoffs to be here. They wish the playoffs started right now. This is the worst time of the year for them. They really can't move much further down than second in their division. They've accomplished most of the things that they wanted to accomplish this year. They've strengthened themselves with Shattenkirk. They just want the playoffs to start.
No, I'd buy that. So, by the way, my thing has the Islanders winning and the Capitals winning in overtime. Continuing on.
Your thing is, what do you mean by your thing? You should be more descriptive.
All right, the ECK final standings predictor done by my PhD wife and I. We created two children, so we thought we'd give it another shot and try to create an incredible projecting thing. It's not working as well as the children did, but we're working on it. So
okay. That's good because there could be first-time viewers. You never know.
I know. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it's gotten a lot of popularity, despite people absolutely hating it. So that's fine. That's the way it works on the internet. I know that. So here we go. Wild and the Hurricanes. This one's not as interesting.
That's a nothing game. Keep going.
Yeah, Panthers and Blue Jackets. This is a big game. Florida right now, every game Florida plays right now is a big game.
Big game. Is it home or away for Florida?
The game is in Columbus.
Okay.
And I have Florida winning this in overtime. That's my prediction. So we'll see what happens there. The Blackhawks and Senators. This is a potential Stanley Cup matchup.
For who? No offense to the Senators.
What kind of reaction I can get out of that? No, I mean,
on one side, Eck. The Blackhawks are a potential Stanley Cup matchup.
I know you tried to slide that in, but
does anyone take money on me that the Ottawa Senators are going to win this division?
Oh no, I wouldn't touch that because that division.
Well, no, that has nothing to do with the Stanley Cup. Who cares if they win the Atlantic?
Right.
Oh, I know, but I have a feeling
right now is like the Titanic. It really is.
If by saying that Ottawa winning the Atlantic, that you think that's going to happen, then you've just admitted to me that Mark Bergevin dropped the ball at the deadline because the Canadians if they're falling apart and they don't win the division, then he didn't do what he needed to do at the deadline.
Wrong. You've missed you've completely missed the point. Mark Bergevin, listen, I've spoken to people in Montreal and have gotten confirmation from people who cover the team as to my hunch. Bergevin was building up this team to beat the Rangers on the eventuality that they would meet in the first round. I stick with that.
Okay.
We're going to have to move fast here. Ottawa, I have Ottawa winning that game in overtime tonight, by the way. So there you have it. Toronto and Tampa, we talked about this yesterday. Probably
completely meaningless game. Doesn't mean anything.
Whoever wins this game, when you look at the standings right now, whoever wins this game has a shot. Whoever loses it
Toronto is not even going to try.
It's going to have a good battle. I mean, it's down to the fact that Toronto could be in Philadelphia's situation almost if Philly were to win tonight and Toronto were to lose. Yeah. So it gets pretty close. So you're looking at, and Philadelphia, we all believe, is really pretty far out of it. So this game will be a tough one. I do have Tampa winning this in regulation. We'll find out more about that as we go.
Do you think they're fishing before this game or no?
No fishing for the rest of the year, and okay. Honestly, even the Toronto media has sort of fallen back on the fact that blaming the fishing trip.
It was really dumb.
It was really just ridiculous, and I agree. And that's what I said yesterday. I thought it was ridiculous.
I think what's more ridiculous. Eck, I'm sorry. I know your kid's probably waiting on the bus stop. Here's the thing. Had they not caught that big fish, they would have been ripped for that. They were getting a no-lose. They were in a no-win situation. If they gone on a fishing trip and caught nothing, they would have gotten pressed for that. But instead, they caught a big fish and got blamed for being too good at that and then not good enough at hockey.
Yeah, but fishing trips are involved in Toronto lore. I mean, Bill Barilko went on a fishing trip.
Okay, we're really going to go Barilko now, really? Way to bring down the show, Mike.
Go Barilko or go back. Go home. All right. Oilers, Bruins. That's the Bruins have played unbelievable hockey lately. The Oilers have to win.
This is a must-win for the Oilers.
Yeah.
And it's tough for Boston. Second of back-to-back, they'll put Raskin tonight because they played Khudobin against Calgary. But that's a tough doubleheader. That Alberta doubleheader.
Yeah,
I think we can pass by Dallas, Vancouver, Detroit, Arizona. Buffalo, LA, a big game for the Kings. Obviously, the Kings have played.
Yeah, this is a must-win for the Kings, and Buffalo's a decent team. Look, I mean, Jimmy, right now, Jack Eichel is on a tear like very few in the NHL. He's got like 20 goals on the year in 45 games, something like that.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of noise around Buffalo about disenchantment with Dan Bylsma. You're going to hear this. You're going to hear this.
This is such a joke.
It's a joke, but I'm telling you, I think it's serious because
discussion for tomorrow because I do think that there's something. I do think there's something to it. What Mike is
saying. Mike Harrington to write about something else.
No. This was not invented by Mike Harrington. No. This is echoing what's going on, Russ. I mean,
there's Bylsma has he is very polarizing. We can get to that later, but he's very polarizing. I have to say, even in Pittsburgh, he was polarizing. So I can see where this is coming from. I think now the Sabres play the Kings very well, for what it's worth, even when they're bad seasons. So this is a tough one, but
this is a tough game for the Kings. It is.
I actually do have the Buffalo Sabres winning this game tonight. So despite the fact that I have the Kings in the playoffs, so if the Kings were to win this game, that would further put them in the playoffs. St. Louis and San Jose these teams always play each other really hard. It's going to be a good game. Important.
Must win for St. Louis.
Must win for St. Louis. Yeah. And let me see what I got on this one.
Is this a Carter Hutton game?
I don't think so.
Allen played yesterday, so maybe.
All right,
I don't know. That could be a Carter Hutton game.
Yeah, St. Louis is winning this game, so I haven't won this game. We'll find out. I don't know, but like I said, I'm the Montreal Canadiens. Let's go to NHL Draft Lottery Simulator, shall we? So far, we realized that one of the things that's really kind
To
of
see the Kings pop up was like a little bit of a shock. I'll admit
Well,
that.
it's funny because Colorado is it made the connection to the 62 Mets. I mean, right now I think they have 43 points. They're probably going to finish with one of the lowest totals since that 74-5 Capitals
It's a
team.
50-50 chance of them getting the #1 pick, I heard.
I heard that.
Can't be. The odds are only the 25%. Is the best odds you can have.
That's why I hate math. All right, go ahead. I heard 50-50. Somebody was wrong.
I hear how bad they are, how epically bad they are. Here's a stat that I heard: the Montreal Canadiens that won 4 Stanley Cups in the late 70s. I think was it late 70s, like 76 to like.
Yes. And they capped it off in 79 against the Rangers. What's your point?
Over the 4 years, have lost less games than the Colorado Avalanche have already lost this year. So how about that? Throw that out. All right.
But the Avs have less guys named Guy on the team, and that's a big factor.
That's true. All right, here's the Draft Lottery Simulator. Here we go. Ready? The Philadelphia Flyers.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Now, I'm going to say this. Flyers fans are going to hate me, but if the Flyers were to win the first overall pick, they would be bitching that it was the wrong year. That's because that's what they do.
Well, they do have a little. I'm not going
to. No, but you know that, Eck. You know that they're going to say, why couldn't this have been last year?
And the Leaf fans are going to go say,
the irony of all times, okay? When they should have gotten Patrick Kane, they didn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's where this is all coming
in
from.
their building. That talk about being cursed. I mean, that's the crazy. Anyway, stop it.
Number 2.
Next up, the Vegas Golden Knights.
Woo!
First entrance onto our board, as far as I know.
It is the Boba Fett's. I love it.
Here we go. And finally, the Boba Fett's, the Carolina Hurricanes.
Nice.
All right, so again, the Avalanche just getting screwed.
I love that if the Hurricanes pick third, it's really no telling what they do. They have defensive prospects, they have offensive prospects. They really will take the best player on the board. That's a situation where they're a team. The two teams there, second and third, have to go best player on the board. Flyers would be a different story.
Yeah. All right, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Remember to follow us on Twitter. You can follow Mike at Buffalo. Russ is at Sportsology. I'm at Eklund. You can follow at HockeyBuzz too. Also, check us out on Facebook. Subscribe to this if you can. Tell all your friends. You do all the social fun things you can do. It helps us out a lot. We really appreciate it.
We do.
And we're all on Instagram as well. So keep an eye out there. And also, of course, patreon.com/hockey. Thanks for supporting our show very much. So we really appreciate it. It means the world to us that those of you who think that we bring something to your day, that you help us out there. So remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.